There is a very subtle moment in life that most of us have touched, yet quickly pass by as if it never existed. It is the moment when everything suddenly slows down, not because the world stops moving, but because the mind unexpectedly loosens its grip. There are no more rushing thoughts, no pressure to become someone, no fear of falling behind, only a quiet, deep, and strangely peaceful presence remains. And yet, most of the time, we live in the opposite direction. We wake up with long to-do lists. We chase time, expectations, and invisible standards set by ourselves or society. We believe that if we move faster, do more, achieve more, then one day we will arrive at peace. But the more we run, the emptier we feel. The more we try to control, the more life seems to slip through our fingers. Is it possible that the truth is this? We have never truly lived, but have only been constantly preparing to live. In that rush, we lose the ability to feel the simple things. A quiet morning is no longer an experience. It becomes an empty space to fill. A meal is no longer nourishment. It becomes something rushed between tasks. Even conversations begin to lose their depth because our minds are always somewhere else. We live as if life is a race, yet we never stop to ask, where is the finish line? To slow down is not to give up on life. It is to begin truly living. It does not mean you stop working, growing, or dreaming. It simply means you stop letting yourself be carried away unconsciously. You begin to see more clearly, feel more deeply, and be fully present in each moment. But the paradox is, slowing down is the hardest thing for modern humans. Because we are used to filling every empty space, we fear silence. We fear doing nothing. We fear facing ourselves, and there are no distractions, so we constantly seek noise through work, social media, new goals, to avoid listening to what is really happening within. And yet, inner peace is not found in adding more, but in letting go. Not letting go of responsibility, but of unnecessary tension. Not letting go of dreams, but of attachment to outcomes. Not letting go of life, but of the way we try to control it. When you slow down, you begin to realize something important. Life is not as rushed as you think. It is your mind that is constantly pushing, comparing, demanding more. And when you stop believing those voices, a new space opens. A space of stillness, clarity, and freedom. In that space, you do not need to become anyone else. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to rush anywhere. You are simply here, and that is enough. Slowing down does not set you behind. On the contrary, it helps you move more steadily. It helps you see your path more clearly. And most importantly, it helps you not lose yourself along the way. Perhaps the deepest wisdom is not in knowing more, but in realizing this. You have been moving too fast for too long, and it is time to stop. Not to give up, but to return. Not to escape, but to face. Not to lose, but to rediscover. A peace that has always been there, simply waiting for you to slow down enough to notice. When a person truly begins to slow down, they do not only change the outer pace of life, but also step into a completely different inner journey. It is not a journey to a distant place, but a journey of returning to oneself, to each breath, to each sensation that has always been present but has been covered by the thick dust of busyness. At first, slowing down may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because when the noise outside gradually quiets, the voices inside begin to become clearer. Unresolved worries, suppressed fears, questions we once avoided all arise at once, and it is here that many people want to return to their old rhythm, faster, busier, just to avoid facing them. But if you are patient enough to stay, something very profound will begin to reveal itself. You will realize that most of the pressure in life does not come from reality, but from the way the mind interprets reality. A simple situation can become a burden just because we overthink it. A future that has not happened can become fears simply because we keep imagining worst-case scenarios. And while the mind is always moving between the past and the future, real life only happens in the present moment. Slowing down is the way you return to that moment. When you eat more slowly, you are not only nourishing your body, but also beginning to feel the life within each flavor. When you walk more slowly, you are not only moving, but also beginning to see things you never noticed before. Light filtering through leaves, a gentle breeze touching your skin, or simply the feeling of your feet touching the ground. When you listen more slowly, you are not only hearing with your ears, but also with your presence. And that is when real connections are formed. Depth does not come from doing more, but from living more fully with what is already here. But slowing down is not only an external practice. It requires a subtle transformation in the way we perceive life. Instead of always asking what's next, we begin to ask what is this. Instead of always aiming for a goal, we begin to pay attention to the journey. And instead of measuring our worth through achievements, we begin to feel that worth through inner peace. This does not mean life becomes perfect or free of difficulty. In fact, challenges will still come, sometimes even more clearly when we no longer avoid them, but the difference lies in how we face them. When the mind is no longer swept into panic, we can see things more clearly. When we are no longer driven by fear, we can act from understanding rather than reacting from instinct. Slowing down does not reduce your strength. It makes that strength quiet and steady. There is a kind of strength that does not need to be loud. It does not need to prove, compete, or rush. It is like a deep river, silent yet unstoppable. When you slow down, you begin to touch that source of strength. You are no longer shaken by small disturbances. You no longer react unconsciously to every situation. You become more stable, clearer, and freer. And then a very natural shift happens. You no longer feel the need to chase everything. Things that once made you anxious began to feel lighter. Goals that once caused tension no longer carry the same weight. Not because you have given them up, but because you're no longer bound by them. You still work, still live, still love, but with a different state of mind, a state no longer controlled by the fear of loss, but guided by a deep understanding that everything is impermanent. Because everything is impermanent, nothing is worth clinging to absolutely. And because everything is impermanent, each moment becomes more precious than ever. When you truly understand this, you no longer rush to hold on to life. You begin to learn how to experience it, not as someone trying to control the flow, but as someone who is merging with it. And in that merging, you realize something very simple yet profoundly deep. Peace is not the final destination of a long journey. It is the foundation that has always been present, only obscured by the haste of the mind. When you slow down deeply and long enough, that covering gradually dissolves, and what remains is not something unfamiliar, but your own original nature, to stillness that does not need to be created. a completeness that does not need to be sought, a peace that does not depend on anything outside. And perhaps that is the true wisdom of slowing down, not to become a better version of yourself, but to realize that deep within, you have never lacked anything at all. There is a very quiet truth that only when moving slowly enough can one truly realize. This life has never required us to rush. It is we, through invisible fears and unnamed expectations, who have created a hurried rhythm and then unconsciously pulled ourselves into it. And then, within that endless cycle, we gradually forget the feeling of being alive, not merely existing, but truly living with full presence, depth, and authenticity. Slowing down is not a technique, it is an awakening. It is the moment you look within yourself and realize, if you continue like this, you may achieve many things, but lose yourself. You may reach milestones that others admire, yet inside remains an emptiness that cannot be filled. And from that realization, a new choice appears, not loud, not dramatic, but incredibly powerful. The choice to live differently. You begin to slow down, not because you have become weaker, but because you are aware enough to no longer be carried away. You begin to speak less, not because you have nothing to say, but because you realize that silence itself holds a deep wisdom. You begin to let go, not because you are indifferent to life, but because you understand that not everything needs to be held on to. And then, little by little, your life begins to change, not in a loud way that others can easily notice, but in a subtle way that only you can feel. You find yourself calmer in situations that once made you lose control. You feel lighter in the face of things that once weighed heavily on you. You find yourself able to smile, a genuine smile, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer demand that it be perfect. That is when you understand. Peace does not come from removing all difficulties, but from how you are present within those very difficulties. Life will still have days that do not go as planned. There will still be losses, changes, things beyond your control. But when you have learned to slow down, you are no longer overwhelmed by them. You can stand steady within the flow, not because the flow has stopped, but because you have found an anchor within yourself, an anchor that does not depend on circumstances, an anchor that is not shaken by time, an anchor that comes from the understanding that you do not need to become anyone else to be at peace. And when you live from that anchor, everything becomes clearer. You no longer chase things that are not truly important. You no longer waste energy on meaningless comparisons. You no longer seek validation from the outside as a way to prove your worth. Instead, you begin to live more authentically, not to impress, but to connect, not to be better than others, but to understand yourself. It is a very different way of living, a way of living where every moment has depth, every action carries awareness, and every experience, whether joyful or painful, becomes part of the journey of understanding and growth. But perhaps the most beautiful part of slowing down is not in the external changes, but in the feeling of returning to a part of yourself that has been forgotten for too long, the part that does not need to strive to be complete, because it has always been complete from the very beginning. When you touch that part, you will no longer seek peace as a distant goal. You will realize that peace is always here, and every breath, and every step, and every moment that you are truly present. And if there is something worth sharing in this fast-paced world, It is this slowing down, not as a trend, but as a gentle reminder that we do not need to move faster to live better. Sometimes simply stopping and truly being present is enough for life to unfold in a completely different way. If these words have touched something within you, if you feel that you need a moment of stillness in the midst of a busy life, allow yourself to begin, not with a grand change, but with a very small moment, a deep breath, a slow step, a moment of doing nothing. And if you would like to continue exploring together the depths of the mind, awareness, and the journey of returning inward, leave a comment to share your thoughts. Sometimes a single sincere reflection and become a light for someone else. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the upcoming content, where each video is not just words, but a space for you to pause, listen, and rediscover the peace that has always been within you. Because after all, what we are truly seeking is not a perfect life, but a mind quiet enough to feel the beauty of life itself.